Thom Hartmann here on the news. You need to know this. Yesterday, we learned that our government has been spying on cell phone records. And last night, we found out that the National Security Agency and the FBI are mining data on the servers of at least 9 major technology companies. Under a top-secret program known as PRISM, our government has been collecting audio, video, email, and more from companies like Yahoo, Google, Facebook, Skype, and Apple. Data analysts at Fort Meade claim that they designed search criteria that produce, quote, at least 51% confidence in targets' foreignness, end quote. According to the Think Progress blog, analysts have access to Facebook's surveillance capabilities, and they can monitor any combination of, quote, audio, video, chat, and file transfer, end quote, conducted via Skype. Allegedly, Google also allows the monitoring of Gmail, voice, and video chat, photo libraries, and live surveillance of search terms, end quote. The intelligence officer who leaked the information to the Washington Post said, quote, they quite literally can watch your ideas form as you type, end quote. Both Apple and Facebook have denied participation in the program, and Google has insisted that they don't have a so-called back door that would give the government access to such information. James Clapper, the director of national intelligence, has called the disclosure of the Internet surveillance program reprehensible. He's also said that the documented leak revealing the cell phone monitoring program is a threat to our national security. Mr. Clapper claimed that neither of these programs may be, quote, used to intentionally target any U.S. citizen, end quote, and insisted that the programs are, quote, entirely legal, end quote. Now, just because a secret FISA court declared these programs legal doesn't mean that they're constitutional. Americans are angry, and they're demanding our government put an end to the invasive process of spying on citizens. In screwed news, Walmart is using the court system to silence protesters. Labor activists from across our country are converging on Walmart's corporate headquarters in Bentonville, Arkansas, but protesters will not be permitted on the company's property. Thanks to a restraining order signed by Benton County Judge John Scott, labor groups and non-employee protesters are prohibited from joining the picket lines with striking workers. Aaron Johansson, research director at American Rights at Work, said, we've covered a lot of companies who have tried to silence their employees when standing up, and I've never seen them go after community leaders this way. In the best of the rest of the news, on Thursday, the Senate Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee advanced bipartisan legislation to create a federal licensing program for insurance agents. The program would essentially deregulate the current state-by-state licensing system, but Senator Elizabeth Warren slipped in an amendment to help protect consumers in the process. Consumer advocates worry that the licensing bill will lower qualification requirements set by individual states. They say that rather than serving as a minimum level of experience, the bill creates a low ceiling on qualifications. However, Senator Warren's amendment seeks to address this problem and requires anyone who serves on the new licensing board to have demonstrated expertise in life, health, or property insurance. Senator Warren has been known for fighting the banking industry to protect consumers, and this amendment shows she'll take that fight to any industry to protect American consumers. The Republican-controlled U.S. House of Representatives wants to go back to deporting the Dreamers. In a party-line vote on Thursday, Republicans voted to resume the deportation of undocumented immigrants who were brought to this country as children. Met with a chorus of boos from the gallery, the vote was largely symbolic because the legislation requires Senate approval, and President Obama has already threatened a veto. The Republican-controlled House vote occurred at the very same time Senate leaders were scheduling debate on the so-called comprehensive immigration bill. White House official Cecilia Munoz said, if part of what is driving this debate is recognition, particularly on the Republican side, that they need to do better with the Latino community, this is not really the right way. Last month, American employers added 175,000 jobs to the economy. However, the unemployment rate still ticked up to 7.6% from April's 7.5%. Labor Department's report was a mix of both good and bad news. One reason for the unemployment rate's rise was that more people entered the job market, which could be a sign that some out-of-work Americans finally feel like they have a chance at finding a job. The Republican sequester was also a factor in the rate increase, as 14,000 government workers were laid off due to the GOP austerity measures that went into effect in March. Many Americans are still out of work and are calling on our government to create jobs through investments and infrastructure. Having the government step forward as the employer of last resort worked in the 1930s, and it would work again today. And finally, a mayoral candidate in Cincinnati, Ohio, sent out a news release that he'd be handing out free marijuana plants in his effort to promote his pro-pot platform. Libertarian candidate Jim Burns held his event at a busy intersection of the city to draw attention to his efforts to re-legalize marijuana. He was joined by about 30 supporters who took home the plants, only to find they weren't pot plants at all. According to Cincinnati.com, Mr. Burns handed out tomato plants instead, saying he just wanted to bring attention to the fact that marijuana should be re-legalized. No word yet from the people who took home the plants and whether or not they're still supporters or whether or not they tried to smoke them. And that's the way it is today, Friday, June 7th, 2013. I'm Thom Hartmann on the news.